Oi! So, the root cause of all your trauma is gonna sound funny, but I promise you, listen to me carefully. This is the true root of all your trauma, and this is for every single person alive. The moment your trauma began, for me and you, it's basically the same, and it's true. Your trauma began. Listen to me very carefully because many people will think I'm being funny or joking. Your trauma began the moment, or my trauma, your trauma began the moment our parents, your mother, your dad, or somebody who adopted you at a very young age, kissed you on the forehead, or kissed you and embraced you and picked you up. That was it. That was the beginning and the downfall of everything in your life. All the addictions, all the gambling, all the drugs, everything, the need for love. When you tell people this, bro, I don't even know how to discuss these type of topics because nobody really takes you seriously. And it gets very esoteric and niche at this point. Because how are you going to tell me that something as positive as embracing a child and showing them love to be the root cause of all our problems? How does that make sense? Our problems began when we were kissed on the forehead and embraced and whatever, and loved and sang to lullabies because we wanted that. We wanted to continue that. We wanted the affection to continue, and we look for it in our partners and significant others, in our other relationships, whether platonic or romantic. The moment your mother kissed you, bro, she fucked up. The moment my mother kissed me, she fucked up. Because now I was addicted to that. I was addicted to that touch, to the want. And it's the opposite too with the kids that were never embraced, you know. Some of them are like, well, I guess the same way as animals, you know. Even the animals do a sort of embrace for the embrace of their children, of their youngs, of their calves, their babes, chicks, you know. But I think this is where things went wrong is even we are taught that things go wrong psychologically later in the past because the kid was not embraced enough and people were cold around him and nobody picked him up, and so now this kid is fidgety and he doesn't like people touching him. Right? So there is that thought, a school of thought, but my school of thought is a bit out there because you were trained to believe the affection that the child gets from the mother, you know, the maternal mother or whatever, is a positive. But here I am saying that that's the root cause of all your problems. The moment you're released from the mother, the moment you are free from the father, the moment you are free from those who brought you into this world and first laid that foundation of what affection is, or what love is, or what you translate those things to be. I want you to understand that there's no maliciousness in this. So your parents did not pick you up, kiss you, and say, "Oh, let's fuck him up." It was sort of like that's what they're told. That's how it was. That's how it always was. Now, is it our fault? Is it their fault that you got addicted to this need, and so you seek this now in females and males? No, it's not their fault. It's not their fault. Is it their fault that you found yourself lacking love, so you use illicit substances to cope? No, it's not their fault at all. Is it their fault that they brought you into this God-forsaken world? Again, maybe that is debatable. That is very debatable. But one day, what I'm saying will be so normalized, but now it feels like I'm standing on my own, trying to tell you that it is the affection that's the problem and not really the what do you call them? It's not the drugs that are the problem. For example, let's say you're addicted to some sort of a substance. You are you are somebody who's a substance abuser. The substance is not really the problem. The problem began when you were a baby, bro. Way back when you were a babum. That's when the moment that all your problem began. When your mama picked you up and said, "Oh, baby, that's my son or that's my daughter." That was it. She fucked you up right then and there. Until now, at your big age, you still haven't realized this. And it sounds so outlandish to even say it. I still cool with my mother. My mother used to kiss me by putting lollies in my mouth. I still thought that was weird as a little baby, you know. It was very affectionate. When I grew up older, that affection had to stop, obviously. You know, you're no longer a baby anymore. Go on your own, do what survive, go out there. But what had happened was, because my mother was very affectionate with me, and as a child, I grew attached to that and I loved it. I began to seek my mother in other women. This is some sort of a psychological psychoanalysis. How did this turn into psychoanalysis? I'm not going to beg you to believe me. I'm not going to somehow try my hardest too much to try and prove to you that I am right and this is the real point. I always say to people, bro, instead of sitting around discussing astrophysicists and what's out there, why don't we first understand what's out here? What's in here? How does this work? People always try to be smart, running away from their problem, discussing big ideas. The Terrence Howard type, the conspiracy theorist type. We should be talking about human connection, human relationships. This is where all our problems sort of began. Everything is initiated from birth. There's trauma even when you're being delivered, let alone being kissed. So going back to my mother being very affectionate with me, when that affection was taken away, right? Now that you want to understand what I'm really on about, when the affection was taken away from you, because you began to grow older now, so the parents can know. Some people have their parents still affectionate with them, so that's not the issue I'm going at here. But when the affection, as you grow up, the affection sort of get cut back. You get me? It's very clear with men. The father literally would cut his affection to his son at a very young age. So we're talking like almost early teens, man, from 13 to maybe. By that time, the father and the child are estranged. That father becomes irrelevant. And on a deeper level, even though you might not know it, your mother becomes estranged. And it is this point that you begin to look for affections elsewhere. For those of you that can't find it, you find it in a bottle. Call it trauma. You find it in other things and try to justify and rationalize that could be where your trauma comes from. But at the end of the day, all trauma comes from the moment your mother picks you up, kisses you, and it is affectionate, singing you lullabies, reading you stories. And when that is removed, you would have wished for that to remain permanent. That treatment, you want it to remain permanent. But because it cannot remain permanent due to how we have set up our society, for example, in my culture, the Sudanese culture, when the child, right, has grown enough, like a little baby, like let's say 5, 6, and he can sort of walk by himself, the whole village, your mother, your uncles, everybody will make fun of you if you still hold on to your mother's skirts or hand or try to be your mother. They literally make fun of you to be a mama's boy. So not only was your mother's affection and everything was beautiful, but now as you're growing up, as soon as you hit 5 or something, in my culture, you get cut off quickly. You cannot literally hold on to your mother's skirts or cry. Happens to all of us. Ask any Sudanese, that's Dinka. They will tell you Dinka or Tong Monja, Monjang people, Tong Monja, Monjang people. That's my people. Ask them. Ask any of your friend that's Dinka, and they will explain to you. And of course, culturally, it's all we're all different. But I'm just saying, in my culture, the cutoff age is very young. Now, when for 5 years of that child's life, you have trained him to expect this sort of intimacy from the mother. So, cutting the child off at 5 years old and leaving them to figure out the other avenues of getting this stimulant, this affection, this sort of dopamine. Nowadays, the kids find it in iPads. You know, us as kids, when we were kids in early 2000, I'm 27, we used to find it by running around and doing all these other stuff. And then the older we get, we try to lose ourselves in anything and everything destructive we can find. And then we call that trauma. But we're not going to the root. How did I deal with my trauma? By realizing that there is a clear line between me and my mother and my father, and every person that has been affectionate to me, that I don't need them, they don't need me. The party is over, basically. That's how I solve my trauma. As much as I still love my mother, I sometimes tell her not to call me unless there's something important. Don't call me. Literally, I tell my mother, do not call me unless there is something important. I don't be on the phone, right? How are you? Son, and be affectionate. Some people love that shit, but you don't get it. That is the trauma I'm trying to tell you. The moment you become sort of, I wouldn't say mature, you don't become mature. You either are or you are not. A mature person will listen to this and say, yeah, he's spitting. An immature person will laugh at me and think that what I'm saying is so outlandish, but he doesn't get it. Separate yourself from the mother, from the father, and you realize very quickly, you actually have no problems. All you've been doing, running around all this time, being sad, being destructive, crashing out, you missed what the mother used to give you, the affection. You missed the affection from the father or from your siblings if they raised you, or anyone else that's a family member like your uncle raised you or your grandmother. You just missed that, man. And you would have wished that train, the groovy train, kept going, the groovy train of people loving you, but it's not. A mature person would realize that every single person is irrelevant. God is irrelevant. Your mother is irrelevant. The father doesn't even count. It is at that point you realize, hold on a minute. Nobody has to love me, bro. What is all this? Let me just go run and chill out and walk around and look at how beautiful everything is. But from time to time, you just be cool with these people. You can be cool with your mother. You can be cool with your father. But don't expect anything from them. That's how I solved my trauma, was realizing it began when I was kissed, and it ended by the moment I realized that kiss, right, is no longer necessary. My mother affection is no longer necessary. She's just somebody. I call her my mother because she's not your mother, but it's not because of some sort of a special relationship. Even though I love my mother still, like I have no issue. Somebody's gonna translate that and think this guy doesn't know. I like my mother, but I just wanted the babying to stop. The kiss from that moment was what set my whole life into some sort of up and down, journey where I was just confused, like you. And you may still think I'm confused after watching this video, but the root cause of all your issues was the moment your mother kissed you, or the moment someone showed you affection from birth when you were a bear bum. I am Petey Kettlehead. I'm not here, right, to just talk about drama or some shit. I'm here to explore ideas and to see if there are people out there that want something different from the norm, a thought, something to consider. And if you're that person, then seriously, or sincerely, I should say, consider what I'm saying. That all our trauma, not just you. I'm not singling you out. That's why I'm using my examples as well. I sympathize with you. All our trauma began the moment someone in our life that we considered important showed affection. I was just using the example of your mother kissing you from birth when you were a little baby for, because it's an image that you can clearly visualize vividly. But anyways, I'm out. Let's discuss more things. If you don't want to discuss and you want to entertain yourself, as always, I say there are millions of channels. Go and find those channels. If you're someone who likes the stuff that I do, stick around. Stick around. I can never run out of ideas.